We are live and we are back. The No Name Cinema Society. It's our 30th episode. Every time we do one of these episodes, I'm like, I can't believe that we are back with another episode. I keep getting surprised that we are able to keep doing this and people keep watching. So we're celebrating our big 3-0 right a few days after I celebrated my big 6-0. So we got a double celebration here. So cheers to you guys. And finally, we get. I should drink after the cheers. But anyway, finally, we get to do a drama after 3 consecutive comedies. So I'm excited about that. All right, so it is time to introduce my friends and cohorts. Well, they're not really friends, but they're my co-hosts. Ladies and gentlemen, let me start with my unionist friend, Jay Money. How are you, sir?
I'm your friend, JB.
Aw, you're the sweetest.
That's true, I am.
I'm really loud because it's so hot in here that I got the fan on. So it's been hot in LA. I don't know if you've known that, but we've been triple digits the last week or so. Anyway, are you well, Jay Money?
Actually, I'm sick. So.
In the head?
Probably both. Probably everything. Yeah.
All right. Well, I hope you feel better, and already tons of viewers already. This is very exciting. Everybody's joining early on for the McConaughey discussion. Now, normally he's a rep from Charlotte, but right now he's in my time zone in Las Vegas, North Nevada, Las Vegas, Nevada. Davey Joseph, Drunk Davey, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. It's hot. It's hot here. Hot for real.
It's probably hotter where you are than where I am. That's for sure. Have you won much money in Las Vegas?
No.
Okay. Well, then we will continue with our very low-budget show that we've got going on here. And they got their lower thirds back. I don't know if you know that. Oh, before I get started with the evening schedule, do you got this? I got this hat for my birthday. Trivia question: do you guys know what movie it's from?
Yes, it's Natural.
Got a picker. Come on.
It's the Natural.
The Natural, New York Knights, Davy Joe. Gold star for Davy Joe. Let's talk about the evening schedule. There you see it in front of you, ladies and gentlemen. In a few minutes, we're going to start talking about it's not the Free State of Jones, but just Free State of Jones, which is our current feature of the evening, just released this past weekend, June 24th. 8:30, 5:30 Pacific, our indie spotlight is Circumstance from 2011. 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, we get classic with the 1940 John Ford film, The Grapes of Wrath, and then we sound off at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific with our freeform segment, The Sound Off, where Davey's got his diatribe. We're going to talk about, we're going to do one of our second run things where we revisit a film. This one was recommended by Davey in a previous diatribe. And also, I'm going to do my top 5 Matthew McConaughey films. And that's in the segment that starts at 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific. You guys ready to get into Free State of Jones?
I am now.
You're feeling it now. Let's talk about it.
Here we go.
All right. This is the true story of Southerner Newton Knight, who becomes disenchanted, let's say, with the Civil War, and he deserts the Confederate Army, which leads him to hook up with some runaway slaves that hide in the swamp area with him. Their successful ability to stay hidden and fight off some approaching rebel army people leads more deserters to join them. Before long, they have a small army that fights for human rights in an area that they control. Do you guys feel good about that summary?
That was excellent.
I like it when they like my summary, everybody. It warms the cockles of my heart. Speaking of cockles, Jay Money, you start with opening thoughts.
Okay, man, what a mess. What a mess of a movie. I mean, hey, it's trying. It certainly had a lot of heart, but...
All right. Okay. Davy Joe, opening thoughts.
This movie did something that I generally don't like very much, but it overcame it. I kind of enjoyed this.
You kind of enjoyed this. I brought some friends because it was my birthday movie, so my friends thought it was fine. What else did I write down? Oh, they had some quibbles about it that I might get into later, but they generally said it was okay, fine. I'm with Jay Money. I think it's pretty weak. and unnecessarily so, mostly due to a sprawling lack of focus. And I'd like to start there, and I want to talk about the screenplay. Basically, I feel like it covered way too much ground, and not only did it cover the 12 years for our boy Newton, but also then it had this insane, unnecessary jump forward 85 years to some subplot taking place in 1945 that certainly it's part of the story, but honestly I could have just used like a title card at the end that told me about that part. Didn't flow, nothing. It was a real issue. I got more to say, but before I do, J Money, you want to add on to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the cut back and forth between what was it, 50 years in the future or 80 years in the future?
85.
Yeah, 85.
85 years.
It was something they were doing that I thought was going to pay off in a bigger way than it did. It certainly didn't. And at the end of the day, I'm not really sure why they would bother doing it, because it didn't seem to have anything. It didn't really seem to have any real message tied to it, other than that it was used to sort of add a little bit of a cliffhanger element to the actual just basic plot of the story from the 1880s. It felt very superfluous. It was chaotically pointless to keep jumping back and forth like that. Didn't add anything to the point of the movie really ultimately. But what was the point? I mean, like you're saying, it was a very sprawling movie. It meandered in a lot of different places, and there was a lot of things it was trying to say at once.
Yeah, I mean, like, my basic feeling is it was so interested in the historical accuracy and focused on trying to get all the details right that they lost any sort of character development, and as a result, they lost my interest. I mean, like, and my ability to connect with any of these characters, because I just really felt that they were, I didn't really get to know them. I understand the how and the why, but I didn't feel it. I didn't, I didn't feel his disenchantment. I was told in a few lines that he was disenchanted with the Civil War. Then they jump ahead a year. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it either needed to cover the just the Civil War years, just the Reconstruction years, or even if it was a separate movie just about the 1945 stuff. Even that might have been interesting in and of itself. Or maybe it should have been a TV show to begin with. There was that much material. It's almost, to me, a travesty that this movie's so bad because the material is there. I feel like the story itself is interesting. J Money, are you on board with that before I get to Davey?
Yeah, the story itself is definitely interesting. It's just that it's exactly what you're saying. They bit off so much of it, but they couldn't figure out how to handle it all. If they had just focused in on a few parts of it, like you're suggesting, it would have been much more dramatic. The arc would have seemed much more substantial, and I think it would have been more enjoyable overall.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, I feel like it's a rookie mistake, and Gary Ross as a director is not a rookie. Like, but then again, neither was Richard Attenborough when he did Chaplin, and as much as I love Charlie Chaplin, the movie is also too sprawling for its own good and tries to cover too much ground. That's another example that comes to mind. Davey, can you defend this movie against our accusations of sprawl?
Well, first of all, I think that when I saw this working, I said to myself, "Oh, these guys are gonna hate this," and I knew.
You nailed it.
I absolutely liked the dual storylines, the kind of competing storylines. Once I figured out where the whole court battle was going in 1945, it kind of made me pay even closer attention to the to the Civil War era stuff. Actually, really post Civil War era stuff. To kind of figure out the mystery there. So I kind of liked it, but I knew that, number one, they were covering way too much territory for most people to deal with, and also I think that it's kind of jarring. I mean, I think especially the first time it happens, this is not a movie that's gonna have a lot of appeal, mainstream appeal, I don't think. But I just, for whatever reason, it worked for me, and I enjoyed kind of jumping back and forth.
Did he just call us mainstream, J Money? You and me?
Maybe.
That seems so strange. Davey, I heard all your words, but none of them made any sense to me. Can you explain to me? I didn't hear why you liked this movie.
Well, I kind of liked the dual narrative. I liked kind of going back and forth because once I saw where the 1945 storyline, what the whole point of it was, it kind of gave me something to key in on in the original stuff. You know, like looking for details, trying to figure out, you know, exactly where they were going and what the real answer was.
The 1945 storyline only really connected with the relationship between Rachel and Newton, you know, at least in terms of its connection to the past. So everything else that the movie was going on, whether it's about you know, slaves' rights or you know, their own crops, like all the political aspects of it had nothing to do with the 1945 court case directly.
Well, you're right about that, but it kind of gave me something else to key in on, something that I probably wouldn't have been paying attention to. I liked the way it kind of and jumps back and forth, and I know maybe it's just kind of appeals to the ADHD nature of my mind, but yeah, I appreciated that.
It's funny, between all of us, our viewers suspect you the least of having an ADHD mind. But regardless, all right. David Joe, are you able? You don't have your headphones or something? Because I'm echoing. Davey?
I don't.
Okay. Okay. Anyway, we'll do our best. Performances are the next thing. My friends like the performances. I disagree. Where are you guys?
I don't really have, well, I don't have a problem with McConaughey, and I don't want to be biased about McConaughey. I personally like him just as an actor in general. I didn't really have a problem with the performance. I think that his performance in general was flat, but I also feel like that wasn't necessarily him. I feel like that was the story.
I agree. I'm going to do my top 5 McConaughey later, so I have some very specific thoughts on the McConaughey style that I want to get into later this evening, so I don't want to talk too much about it. But I agree with everything you said about the flatness, and it's mostly a screenplay issue. Let's say it's a 90% screenplay issue, because I do think that there may have been, like I said earlier, I understand the how, the what, and the why. I just didn't feel the why. There's something he might have been able to do to help me out with that a little bit, but not too much. But I definitely wasn't, I don't think there was a three-dimensional character here in spite of everything.
Well, and unfortunately, it seems like that's true for almost every character in this movie. I mean, I would say that overall, all the performances were at least, they were solid. They were competent, I guess is what I would say. But I also feel like there were so many side characters that were not really given a chance to stretch or do anything outside of kind of this very predictable, sort of, almost stereotypical version of slave life.
Well, I mean, like, just jumping off of what you said, I want to let Davey chime in too, but I do think that Mahershala Ali as Moses was the performance of the movie for me. I thought he was pretty outstanding, powerful, deep, three-dimensional, in spite of the script. So, I think that he was bringing a lot to the table, and they didn't get a lot into his backstory, but you felt it in his performance, and I think that's an achievement there. I think Gugu Mbatha-Raw is generally a terrific actor, but I didn't get much from her here, and even when she was required to emote, I just didn't buy it. Again, partially screenplay, a lot direction. Quite frankly, the director should have helped her out a little more. But like any time she had to show emotion or fear or pain or whatever, it just felt surface. It's not hard for an actor to force themselves to cry. It's where it's coming from. And I'm sorry, actors, some of you that have difficulty crying, others of you don't. But it's not always real, and I wasn't feeling real. Davey, you can unmute yourself and opine.
I think I thought, first of all, I agree with your comment about the Moses. That was I thought the best performance. And I thought McConaughey was he was good. I mean, but you're right. I think you could make the argument that it's a little flat. I think part of the problem is that there's sort of a lot of the same stuff that happens again and again in this movie. And
this is the movie he likes, ladies and gentlemen.
No, but right. But I mean, when a person has to give, he's addressing a group of people, like giving a speech, more than one time, it's hard to, you're gonna kind of play it the same way. So,
Are you actors out there? Talk to me. Are you?
Well, I mean, why would he change? Like, why would this is his
I would assume. Hope, this is a screenplay issue as well, but I would hope that the actual beats of the speeches change to some degree. And if you are repeating these speeches throughout the movie, then there's probably something wrong with your movie.
And yeah, I think that's a valid criticism. Look, I'm not saying it's gonna be a top 10. It
sounds like you are. The audience is gonna be disappointed if they don't see it in the top 10 in February.
They should gear up now. Disappointment
already.
All right, talk to me about direction. My friends had some thoughts on this. What do you guys think about Gary Ross's work in terms of the direction?
Well, I guess if we're talking about there being sort of a failure within the characters to kind of pull the story forward, look, I never know who to blame in that situation. Otherwise, I don't really think I have a problem with how the movie looked and felt by the end of it. I think it was actually cobbled together well. It's just that it was cobbled together with too many pieces,
Well, the choice to go back and forth in time, because Gary Ross also wrote the screenplay, so there was no, directorial distance here. There was no directorial perspective. It was just...
Well, then I put the blame squarely on Gary Ross's shoulders in this situation.
Yeah, well, but even the style itself, it lacked. One of the words that my friends used after watching it, we went out for drinks afterwards, was the word ordinary came up a lot. For lack of a better word, and I would just say it lacks style. In terms of directorial choices, it felt mostly uninspired. There was a number of moments where I thought certain choices were not motivated by anything, and I felt that with Gary Ross before in a movie like Seabiscuit. I remember thinking, I'm trying to put myself in his head and wonder, why is he cutting? What's the point of cutting to a gear shaft there? I'm trying to understand what he wants that to mean, and that's a Seabiscuit moment. But there was a number of moments in this movie where I was wondering, why are we shooting under the pew? What's that buying us? What is that? What is that getting us? Instead of just being oh, that might be an interesting angle to see their feet from this point, maybe, but not. But what is it motivated by? I didn't. And sometimes it's just my lack of intelligence, but I don't. I just think it wasn't. But I feel like I should be able to. It should be clear to me what these shots are motivated by. Davey?
To me, the direction is all about how the movie's put together in this regard, in this movie, because that's the way it's spliced together, and the way that the two stories are intertwined is kind of the whole deal. If you don't like that, then you're not gonna like the movie. So I appreciated that, and that's why I would say the direction was solid. But I see your point.
Can I add something? I will say that I think that I see what you're saying in terms of his sort of the ordinariness of the entire movie. And I think that there might be a historical pastiche that he might just bring into everything at this point. I didn't see Seabiscuit, but I can certainly even see the similarity between what I've seen of Seabiscuit in this movie, just in terms of the visual style. But
he also brought us Pleasantville, and there was a lot of style, and everything seemed motivated there.
Yeah, but for me personally, Pleasantville was a little bit too much style, and also it was a very on the nose story. And it's funny, I didn't realize that he directed that, but this movie itself was also incredibly on the nose about a lot of kind of really sensitive and complicated topics. But where I was going to go with this to begin with is that I was saying a lot of the scenes where these sort of band of stragglers are in the swamp, I really liked the way that was kind of shot and put together. I thought there was a real sense of the space that they were in terms of the emptiness of it and also their desolation that really came across. And
from a look point of view, the swamp. Yeah, from a look point of view, the swamp was one of my favorite, my favorite scenes, favorite looks. Yeah. I think that's Philip Messina's production design, most of all. Actually, I might have a better photo of it than this. But I don't think that was necessarily direction or cinematography. I thought the overall look of the swamp. And there's some even better shots than this as our time's about to run out, that were interesting and that looked appealing and visceral. But I mean, again, I think that's Philip Messina's production design, not really, like Gary Ross or. I mean, maybe Gary Ross had the vision, but that vision didn't necessarily entail any other sets. And also, the cinematography felt a little flat too. And it was really the production design that I thought was really more interesting than anything else.
Okay, I mean, I guess I'm thinking specifically of like parts where they're following characters through the swamp itself.
Okay. But when they're on the boats, right? When
they're on the boats, or when they're walking across water, symbolically. I mean, it's,
I had that thought too, which is why do I ever make you laugh with my photo titles when I send them to you?
Yes, occasionally. Okay. Yeah.
I'm trying really hard to make you laugh with my photo titles. It's a part of the show experience that Davey doesn't get to appreciate. Now we're run out of time, but in terms of the cinematography, J Money was very critical of the Conspirator cinematography. But I mean, I really feel like this movie could have used some of the grime and smoke that was a part of the look of the Conspirator. Davey, you with me on that?
No. I think that there wasn't as many settings, that called for that the way that the Conspirator did. I mean, the Conspirator, they're in a long trial indoors, and it's cold out, and there's fire, and that made sense. I do think that there's nothing flashy about the cinematography. I think it's kind of just there, and I think that's a good point. But I didn't think it was bad.
Well, I mean, like, look, you know me. If the last thing I want is for style to call attention to itself. I'm big on I'm a big detractor of style over substance, but at the same time, I just felt like there wasn't that extra level of detail going into these graphic choices. And when I say graphic, I mean like visual graphic. J Money, do you want to make fun of me for my Conspirator comment? Because I know you're not a fan of that.
No, we maybe don't see eye to eye on the Conspirator, but I would agree that it could have used something. It could have used a little bit of a tweak to it, whether or not it was kind of what they did in the Conspirator or not. That might have helped. But I see where you're coming from in that comment.
Excellent. Do you guys now real quick? I mean, like a couple of my friends had a favorite scene. I agreed with one of their favorite scenes. Do you guys? Was there, from a quality point of view, was there stuff that you liked? Are you going with the swamp stuff? Is there something else you want to mention, J Money?
Well, there's a pretty big set piece in the middle of it that's actually I thought pretty well done.
We might be in the same page there. Let's see if well, you saw my photos, so are we on the same page there? Do you know what I'm?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Okay, Davy Joe, do you have a favorite moment?
Yeah, I thought the early stuff in the war. I thought that the battle scenes when they were actually with the Confederacy and fighting the Union, I thought that those scenes were pretty brutal and pretty. So I enjoyed that.
So okay. I mean, my friends liked the scene where Newt first touches Rachel for the first time, and it's not touched in a sexual way. At least it seems that way. He touches her in a way where sort of touches her back because she's been beaten, and it's sort of like a healing / sensual thing going on. And I would have liked that if that had been earned before that. You know what I mean? Like I just felt like that their development, there was so much other stuff going on that their relationship kind of got lost in the shuffle. My favorite scene from an execution point of view was the funeral ambush. Was that the scene that you were talking about?
Yeah.
Jim?
Yeah, that's the scene.
I thought that was one of the more well executed scenes. I did not like that Civil War stuff that you did. But regardless, I think that this particular scene was a little more interesting. I will say what did you say just now, J Money? Not J Money, Davy Joe, about the war scenes? You thought they were hardcore, and what else?
I don't believe I said hardcore.
No, I know. I'm trying to. what was your exact words? I'm trying to remember. It wasn't hardcore.
I don't remember, but I'll tell you what
I think what you said is they were brutal.
They
were brutal. So
the scene, going into the scene where we're just marching straight into it, that had me. Of
course, but I mean, like, and it just made me think that, like, war people were stupid back then. I mean, what is going on? Well, I mean, they did that in the Revolutionary War too, but they're so dumb.
But in the Revolutionary War, they didn't have guns that shot perfectly straight the way they did in the Civil War.
Yeah.
So
it's still dumb.
No, I agree. That was a very powerful scene. The whole opening sequence was powerful. It's also stuff that I think that has been covered in general, but I wouldn't discredit this movie for doing it again. It still was very striking, and it really was the only thing you could say is the basis for Newton's character, or at least his portrayal in this movie. Like, everything that happens in the first 10 minutes is pretty much what informs his character for the rest of the 2 hours and 10 minutes.
The fact that he stuck with that march.
I wish I'd seen that nephew before, or whoever that kid was in the beginning. I wish I'd seen him before. You know what I mean? Like, it was just all thrown together. All right, guys. I'm gonna move on. We might be I don't want to be a little late for the next thing. We're in about 4 minutes. We're gonna do our indie spotlight, which is the 2011 film Circumstance. Our next current feature, we're gonna go where no name cinema society has gone before. We're doing Star Trek Beyond, July 28th, y'all, at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, and that's almost a month from today. How about that? So that's coming up, but before we get to that, our evening continues with our indie spotlight, Circumstance. It's a really interesting movie, and I hope you will check out our discussion of it coming up shortly, and we will see you then.